Hi everyone, it's Jennifer. I wanted to take a few minutes today to walk you through education in New York State and what it looks like at different levels. So we're going to look at who's involved in education in New York State, from the classroom to the New York State Education Department. So in New York, there are classrooms. This is where the teachers and the students live. You're probably pretty familiar with a classroom in New York State. Just for some perspective, New York State classrooms in public schools served 2.6 million students, over 2.6 million students in the 2015-16 school year. That includes over 450,000 students with disabilities, over 217,000 English language learners, and more than 1.4 million, 4 million students who were economically disadvantaged. New York City has approximately 1.1 million students and 75,000 teachers. So when you have the multiple classrooms put together, you get a school. A school also, aside from the teachers and the students, have people like principals, the building leader / administrator, assistant principals sometimes, school secretaries, school counselors, school psychologists, school social workers, food service staff, bus drivers, maintenance staff, and more. Just for perspective, numbers of schools in New York State, there are 4,468 public schools, not districts, just schools in New York State in 2016-17. That included 2,454 elementary schools, 750 senior high schools, 639 middle schools, 436 junior senior high schools, and 88 schools that are K-12. Over 1,600 of the schools are in New York City. In addition to those 4,468 public districts, there are 295 charter schools and 1,780 non-public schools in New York State. In New York State's classroom sizes, nationally 25 students per class is the average. In New York State in K-6, there's approximately 21.8 students per class. And some size class limits from the United Federation of Teachers, just to kind of give you a rule of thumb as to how big classes could possibly be. They'll likely be a little bit smaller. Pre-kindergarten classes would be 18 students with a teacher and a paraprofessional, or smaller, remember. Kindergarten, 25 students. Grades 1 through 6, 32 students. Junior high school, middle school, 33 students in a non-Title I school and 30 in a Title I school. A Title I is a federal program improving the academic achievement of the disadvantaged, and provides federal funding to schools with social economically disadvantaged students. So requirements on student-teacher ratios in those schools are governed by the federal governments and their participation in that program. So let's see, high school would be 34 students or 50 in a physical education or gym class. Okay, school districts are the next biggest unit of organization. So multiple schools typically form a school district. School districts typically have multiple schools, but as you saw, there are some pre-K or K-12 school buildings that are also school districts. School districts are governed, run by a Board of Education, a BOE, the Board of Education. This is an elected group. The number of school board members varies by district. They oversee the education of the community's youth and act officially at the board table. They create the vision and the future for education. They set direction for the district. They develop the budget. They provide accountability for student achievement. They hire and evaluate the superintendent. They ratify collective bargaining agreements on most teacher contracts, staff contracts, and more. They have a superintendent, hired by the Board of Education. The superintendent is lead school administrator and CEO of the district. They implement the school board's vision, making day-to-day decisions about the education programs, spending, staff, and facilities. They hire, supervise, and manage the central staff and principals. School districts typically have departments that handle a wide variety of different items, from 504 American Disability Act, athletics, attendance, budget, curriculum, food service, general counsel, grants, health-related services like nurses, human resources, payroll, benefits, information technology, public relations, security, special ed, staff development, student support services, transportation, treasurer. Some schools and districts overlap with these functions depending on the school district. In large school districts, there may be a whole department with multiple staff. In small districts, a single person may have multiple roles and cover multiple duties. Just to give you some perspective, in New York State, there are nearly 700 school districts in New York State. You'll see the little map there. It does include the Big Five. The Big Five school districts are New York City, and I think we saw they had about 75,000 teachers just in New York City alone. But the Big Five are New York City, Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Yonkers. And the rest are many smaller school districts. Interesting to note is that New York State tops the list in school spending. They spend more than $22,000 per pupil per year. It's 90% above the national average. So school districts in New York State aren't really out there all on their own. There is a Board of Cooperative Educational Services, or a BOCES system in New York State. Smaller school districts, not those Big Five city districts, but the smaller school districts belong to a BOCES. A BOCES board is made up of representatives from component districts, and they provide leadership to local school districts in law, policy, and practice. New York State put them together in 1948, and they really enable small rural school districts to pool resources and share costs. They provide a variety of cooperative educational services on a contract basis to component or member school districts. Things like vocational education, special education, and professional development. Each BOCES has a district superintendent, or a DS, selected by the BOCES Board of Education and contingent upon approval of the Commissioner of Education in New York State. That DS serves as the representative of the Commissioner of Education in the region. The district superintendent has at least 3 important roles. One is to be an educational change agent, the regional planner and coordinator, and the field representative for the New York State Education Department. BOCES employs a variety of teachers to meet the needs of students in component districts, such as vocational education teachers, maybe teaching auto body, welding, cosmetology, nursing, or a variety of other vocational pursuits. They also have a lot of special education teachers, as well as itinerant teachers that are shared between 2 or more districts, often in specialty certification areas where they may not have a full-time position in one district. They might share them through an itinerant program at BOCES where the teacher works in multiple districts. Maybe teaches the morning in one district and the afternoon in another. So multiple classrooms become schools. Multiple schools become districts. Multiple districts are part of BOCES, and multiple BOCES are part of 9 Joint Management Team or JMT regions in New York State. So each JMT region contains one or more Regional Information Centers or RICs, which we'll talk about, and they contain one or more BOCES. The district superintendents in the Joint Management Team region work and plan together for the region. New York State also has 12 Regional Information Centers or RICs. They're organized under BOCES and typically serve several BOCES in a region. They offer 21st century classroom tools and technology services, administrative systems, data analysis, integration and verification, integration of technology support, as well as technical support for school districts and BOCES. Education is coordinated in New York State through the New York State Education Department, or NYSED. The commissioner is Mary Ellen Aliyah, a UB alumna. The State Education Department oversees the work of New York State schools, including areas and departments such as Adult, Career and Continuing Education Services, Chief Financial Office, PK-12 Education, Higher Education, Cultural Education, the Professions, and Performance and Improvement Management Strategies. State Ed is governed by the Board of Regents, the New York State Board of Regents. They are 17 members total, 1 from each of 13 judicial districts and 4 at-large members. They are elected by the state legislature for 5-year terms. Regents are unsalaried, they don't make any money, but they do get reimbursed for their travel expenses. And those regents have an important job. They're responsible for the general supervision of all educational activities within the state of New York and preside over the university and the New York State Education Department. The regents are organized by standing committees, subcommittees, and work groups, whose members and chairs are appointed by the chancellor. And that is a quick overview of the levels of education in New York State.